If you've been working on improving your walking after stroke, but you're still not seeing the progress you want, there's something that many people often overlook. Spoiler alert, it's your hips. Today, I'll explain why your hips matter so much for walking, and I'll give you an easy to follow 5-exercise protocol to help improve your hip movement and strength so that you can walk better after your stroke. Now, if you don't care about the role that hips play in walking after stroke, go ahead and jump to this timestamp to get right to the exercise protocol. Otherwise, hang with me for just a minute. So firstly, there is some evidence that tells us that hip flexor strength, the ability to raise the leg up at the hip, is moderately to highly correlated with walking speed after stroke. Meaning that how well you can move them and how strong they are is a predictor of how well and how fast you're able to walk. And let's talk mechanically about what our hip muscles are doing in order to help us walk. Our hip flexors, again, the muscles that help to lift the leg up, are drivers of the swing phase of gait. Basically, they help to lift the leg up and swing it forward so that you can move to take a step. And if these are weak, you're going to have trouble clearing the ground properly, which is why you might see common movement patterns like hip hiking, where one side of the hip comes up, or hip circumduction, where you have kind of a straight leg and your whole leg swings out to the side. We also have to talk about hip extensors and glutes, and these muscles help to bring the leg backwards. They're also very important, especially for walking, to provide that push-off power so that you can push off to take that next step. When you have weak hip extensors, this means that you also have a weak push-off. It also translates to a shortened stride, as well as a reduction in your walking speed. And last but not least, our hip abductors, which are the muscles that help us lift our legs out to the side. They play a big role in pelvic stability. Every single step we take involves very briefly standing on one leg. Your hip abductors, those muscles on the outside of your hips and upper leg, they are what keep your pelvis level during this phase. And without them, your pelvis can drop to one side and destabilize your walking pattern. With that said, let's jump in with how to approach this exercise protocol. Of course, always check with your doctor or therapist before starting any new exercise routine. So how you approach this protocol is going to depend on the primary goal that you have, whether it's regaining more movement and mobility, or if you already have established movement but you want to build more strength. So if you're working on developing more movement and mobility, you're going to want to do this protocol around 3 to 5 days a week for 3 to 4 sets per exercise. We're also going for higher repetitions because the goal with rebuilding movement is to rebuild brain-body connections, and it takes a high number of repetitions and intensity in order to be able to do that, which means that you want to aim for 15 to 30 repetitions per set. Now, if you already have established movement and you're wanting to rebuild strength, here's how this changes for you. You're going to aim for 2 to 3 days per week, making sure to take at least one rest day in between each working day, and that's because your muscles are going to need time to recover if you're using heavier weights. You're going to aim for 2 to 3 sets of 5 to 10 repetitions for each exercise. And you want your last repetition to either feel very hard to do or you're not actually able to complete it. That's called going to failure. You also need to take at least 2-minute rest breaks in between each set, again, to give your muscles some time to recover so that you can give good effort on the next set. Exercise number 1 is a hip bridge. I know I come back to this one often, but that's because it's a great exercise. It's going to help to work those hip extensors and your glute, as well as provide a small but gentle stretch to your hip flexors as well. So you'll want to get on your bed or a couch, somewhere that you can lie down safely. You'll want to bend your knees up and keep your back flat on the ground. Drive through your heels and bring your butt up off of the surface. You're then going to squeeze your glutes at the top, holding for a few seconds before slowly lowering yourself back down. Now, of course, modification if you're not able to bring that butt up all the way. You can either just do a butt or glute squeeze while you're laying down flat, or you can just try to lift that bottom up as far as you possibly can, squeezing throughout the movement before returning back to starting position. Now, to progress this, you can do a one-legged hip bridge. So you can straighten one of your legs out and keep the other one bent. Go through the same movement where you're lifting up your bottom, squeezing at the top, but keeping that one leg straight throughout the movement. And if you're able, you can then do other repetitions with the other leg straightened out so that you get an equal amount of work on both sides. Exercise number 2 is a straight leg raise. This exercise directly targets your hip flexors. And I'll be honest, this one is really challenging, but a key principle of neuroplasticity that often gets overlooked is intensity. So if you're capable of doing this, either the modified version or the base version, try it. Add some intensity to your home rehab routine. So for this one, again, you're lying on your back. You want to bend your unaffected leg at the knee and keep your foot flat on your surface. You want to keep your affected leg straight, tighten your quad, and keep your knee straight. Then lift your straightened leg up towards the ceiling and slowly lower back down. Now to modify this, you're going to stay laying down, but this time all we're trying to do is activate those hip flexors. So even if you don't get active movement or you're able to lift the leg up off of the table, just try your best and try to get those hip flexors activating. If it helps, you can put a hand on the front of your affected hip to see if you can feel them contracting. Now to progress this, if you're ready for more of a challenge, you can add a cuff weight around your ankle to provide extra resistance. And you can increase the weight slowly over time to provide added strengthening. Exercise number 3 is clamshells. And this is meant to target your hip abductors. Again, working on those muscles that help to stabilize the pelvis during walking. So for this one, you're going to stay laying down, but you're going to turn on your side. You want to bend your knees to about a 45-degree angle, and you're going to have your affected leg on top. You then want to keep your knee bent and raise that top leg up, contracting those muscles on the outside of your hips while you do so. Basically, you want to look like a clamshell opening and closing. Hold for a few seconds at the top and then slowly lower back down to starting position. Now to modify this, we're going to come into a sitting position. And instead of trying to raise up against gravity like in that side lying position, we're going to reduce its effects to see if we can get more movement. So for this one, you're going to keep your knee bent, but you're going to try to bring that leg out to the side and back in as best you can. Now to progress this, you're going to get back in that side lying position. It's best if you have some type of resistance band or exercise band that you can tie around your knees, just above your knees, to add some extra resistance. You'll go through that same base movement, but this time with the added resistance of that exercise band. Exercise number 4 is a hip hinge. And this is our compound posterior chain exercise. This just means that it's working on a lot of different muscle groups at one time on the back of your leg. And it is also a much more functional exercise because it mimics how our body naturally works, because muscles usually don't work in isolation. So for this one, you're going to stand at a sturdy surface with that surface being on your side to hold if you need to. You want to have your feet about hip width apart and a very slight bend in your knees. And be cautious with that because you don't want a ton of bending in your knee. Now you're going to hinge forward, bending at your hips while trying to keep your knees just very slightly bent. You should feel engagement of those muscles on the back of your leg. Then you're going to straighten yourself out, sort of driving your hips forward to come back to an upright position. And if you can, give your glutes a little squeeze at the top. Now to modify this, if you have trouble with your balance or feel a little bit uncoordinated bending over, you can do a standing hip extension. So this is where you're standing, holding onto the counter, and you're just bringing a straightened leg back behind you. You're gonna alternate and do both sides. Importantly, you wanna make sure you're squeezing the muscles on the back of your leg and your bottom at the top for about 2 to 3 seconds before coming back to starting position. Now, to progress this, if you're safe enough with balance and coordination, and you have some level of grip in both of your hands, you can hold on to dumbbells, bag of beans, whatever you have laying around that can provide added resistance. You're gonna hold those in your hand as you bend forward, bringing your hands to just below knee level, keeping your back straight, chest up, and then coming back to starting position. Exercise 5 is step ups. And this is, again, another very functional exercise because we're working multiple muscle groups at one time. If you're not able to work up to this one yet, that's okay. Start with the exercises you can do and work towards this one over time. This exercise mimics real life functional things we need to do, like going up and down stairs, stepping over objects in our house. And there's also that stepping component that we have to step forward during walking. So for this one, you're gonna stand at a sturdy surface, holding on with both hands if you need to. You can use a very solid book with something underneath it that will keep it from sliding. I like to use cabinet liner. If you have an exercise or aerobic step up, you can use that too. So first, step up with your unaffected foot and bring your affected up to meet it. Then step down with your affected side and then bring the unaffected foot down to meet it. Then vice versa. You're gonna switch. Your affected leg goes up first, and then unaffected comes down first. Each time that you go through that alternated stepping forward pattern is 1 repetition. So to modify this, you can do a simple step forward. Instead of worrying about stepping up 2 to 3 inches, just worry about trying to get your foot out in front of you. Hold for a moment and then move it back to starting position. Alternate this exercise so both legs will have a chance to be the stabilizing leg. Now to progress this, you can add resistance a couple different ways. If you have grip, you can hold on to dumbbells or something else that's heavy, like canned goods. If you don't, you can add cuff weights around your wrist or your ankles, or you can wear a weighted vest. As balance improves, you can also practice taking away handheld support. Just make sure that you have safety precautions in place. Leave me a comment and let me know which hip exercises you found to be most helpful after your stroke. And of course, a huge thank you to all of the donors from PayPal and Patreon who make this nonprofit possible. With a special thank you to Modus Nova and Joseph M. and our Empowerer tier on Patreon. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time.